Welcome back to Blitz Sports Media. I am your host, Ryan Linkletter, and we're back on the Blitz angle. We got our co host here, Brady Penn, and we're ready to go after a great Thursday night football game where we saw the Falcons take down the Bucks in overtime. Let's head out to London. Vikings and Jets. Brady, who do you like in this one?
I like the Vikings to continue their winning ways, and I think that them and the Chiefs will both be still undefeated after this week. But there is a chance. I mean, both these teams could lose, but there's a chance that the Vikings could be the final undefeated team remaining after this week. It's an interesting matchup. The Jets are trying to bounce back after a really bad offensive week, granted in the pouring rain, but you just see. I've mentioned it a few times this week. The disconnect in the building. You see there's already seems to be a lot of finger pointing. There's Rodgers, there's Salah issues, there's people calling for Hackett. It's just all over the place. There's dysfunction. Rodgers and Garrett Wilson aren't on the same page like we thought they were starting to be in that Patriots game. And this Vikings team is just absolutely rolling. I like them by 2 scores here, 30-17.
See, I'm going with the upset in this one. And one of the biggest things that, I think plays in that upset is that great Jets defense. Now, Justin Jefferson's always going to get his, right? I don't think anybody's going to question that. But I think Jordan Addison's going to get locked up a little bit this week. I think Aaron Jones could be held in check. And I think Sam Darnold's old team could give him a few problems over in London. And obviously, like when teams travel overseas, right, we don't know what version of the team we're going to get. We've seen
Right.
this now over the last few seasons, and we're not exactly sure what version we're going to get of each team. But, I think the Jets match up well with the Vikings. I really do. And if the Jets actually show up on offense, which I have no clue if they do, I think the Vikings blitz and their pressure rate over the first 4 weeks of the season doesn't match well for the Jets. But I think this could be an upset here. I really do think the Jets defense could provide a good amount of problems for the Vikings. I know they face some great teams in the 49ers, Texans, and obviously the Packers, but I think the Jets defense honestly might be the best defense of that bunch. And I think this is the time the Vikings drop their first game of the season. All right, heading out to Chicago. This is it's not really a rivalry, but definitely a little bit of storyline to it as always. We got the Bryce Young pick, obviously, with the Bears and the Panthers. Brady, who do you like in this one?
I think the Bears are going to win this one. I'm not sure it's going to be super pretty. I've got a 24-17 score, but I do think that the Bears are going to continue to gain confidence. And I think for the third week in a row, maybe fourth week in a row, we see a couple of really impressive Caleb Williams throws. I think we're starting to see him come into his element. And this is what I'll say. I know both of us were pretty high on the Bears coming into the season. You were even higher on them than I was. I had them just missing the playoffs as that eighth team in the NFC. But I'm just going to say, don't let the Chicago Bears get hot. Don't let
Nope.
Caleb Williams get on the same page with DJ Moore. We're already starting to see that rookie connection with him and Romo Dunze. The last couple of weeks, we saw a great touchdown throw to DJ Moore last week. And he's got an opportunity against a banged up defense here this week. They don't even have Shaq Thompson anymore. There's no Derek Brown. It's really just J.C. Horn out there at this point in terms of household names, quote unquote.
Literally the lone survivor.
Yeah, and I'm going with the Bears here after beating the Rams last week. They beat a Panthers team that has looked better the last couple of weeks with Andy Dalton.
Yeah, no, I think the Panthers definitely have looked better, especially in fantasy football. Deontay Johnson and Chuba Hubbard are guys that you have to put in your lineup. And I know the Bears provide a tough matchup, but those are great guys going forward. And I got a low scoring one in this one, 2017 Bears. I don't like Shane Waldron at all. I think what he's doing is just not good. I mean, if you look at the route tree of all the Bears wide receivers, it's the most high school basic route tree I think anybody could just look at and
DJ
see.
Moore is
And
not running anything over like 10 yards.
no, it's horrible. It's disgusting. And I think this is a game the Bears win, not because of Waldron, because they have a great defense and I think they have enough talent to obviously get it done. And
In
if there is a
spite,
week, yeah, in spite of Shane Waldron, the Bears are going to win in this one. And I think we do have a good game from Caleb Williams and crew, and hopefully him and DJ Moore start getting on the same page going forward because that'll be big down the stretch if they want to make the playoffs this season. All right, heading out to Cincy, we have a great one here. Ravens versus Bengals. And, this one's big for both teams. The Bengals obviously want to get right back on track with 2 wins in a row. And then the Ravens, they don't want to fall below 500. They want to keep riding the momentum that they've had the last 2 weeks. Brady, who do you like in this one?
I like the Ravens. Lamar Jackson is 8-2 against the Cincinnati Bengals in his career as a starter. And I know we had that one game a few years back where Joe Burrow threw for 500. And while the Bengals are one of the best 1-3 teams that we've seen in recent memory, I mean, Joe Burrow's been really, really good ever since that Patriots game. I like the Ravens here. I don't think that the Bengals defense. I mean, they struggled last week against the Panthers. They got diced up by Jaden Daniels. It's funny, honestly. Maybe their best game defensively is against the Chiefs. Although I'd probably say
Well,
Patriots.
that makes sense though.
But I think that Derrick Henry is going to get everything he wants. I think Lamar is going to have another good game. And this is another one that I'm going with a 2-score game. I think the Ravens are going to score a ton, and I'm going 35-24 Baltimore.
Yeah, I like Baltimore in this one too, and I think Baltimore's run game is going to absolutely bully the Bengals. Malik Murphy might be back this week. I know he's logged some practice time and is off of IR, but I don't think that helps him much. The Bengals have no run defense right now, and the Ravens obviously have the best rushing attack in the NFL. I mean, the last 2 weeks they've just played bully ball basically against two good teams. So I think the Ravens are going to come out 28-24 in this one. I think Joe Burrow and crew do get theirs a little bit, keep it interesting, but I think they match up horribly against Baltimore. They match up better against Buffalo and Kansas City. They don't match up good against Baltimore or even New York, I'd say, where teams that can have a solid running game at times match up well against the Bengals. All right.
I do want to add one more thing. I think that if the Bengals do lose this game to their divisional rivals and fall to 1-4, that seat's going to warm up a little bit more for Zach Taylor. There's going to be people starting to figure out what the problem is. I just heard them on Get Up today talking about how it's not Joe Burrow's fault because it really isn't. And they're like, at this point,
it's playing great.
You got to start questioning every single year under Zach Taylor. The Bengals get off to brutal starts, and this might be the tipping point for the front office.
Yeah, really could be. All right, heading to the toilet bowl of the week. Dolphins versus Patriots. Brady, who do you like in this one?
I'm going to go with the Pats in a kind of stinky game here. I don't think that Tyler Huntley is going to get a whole lot done just based on what we saw last week. And even though the Patriots have looked bad, really, ever since week one and even at times throughout week one, I think that they've got more continuity and they're healthier. I think they've got the better defense. And, I mean, even in the games that they've lost, we've seen, aside from the Jets game, we've seen them move the ball a little bit. We've seen them get points at certain times. And I don't think it's going to be a very pretty win, but I'm going to go with New England 24-14.
Yeah, and this is a Mike McDaniel game. It really has to be. Now, against the Titans, they have a pretty talented defense. The Patriots obviously have Christian Gonzalez and not much else right now on that defensive side of the ball. They've struggled through the past, ever since that Bengals game, that unit has really struggled. And if Mike McDaniel can't scheme open throws for Snoop Huntley or to Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle, I'm going to have a big Mike McDaniel rant coming after this one. I got the Dolphins in this one, 2017. We'll see what we get from them this week. It'll be interesting. All right. Heading back to Washington, Cleveland and Washington. Who do you like in this one, Brady?
I'm going with the Commanders. I think that they get to 4-1 here against the Browns, and I don't think it's going to be behind their offense the way that it has been the last few weeks. I think their defense actually is going to play well against Deshaun Watson that is just reeling. Actually did have one of his better games of the year last week, but they just couldn't get any points up on the board.
That offensive line.
Terrible O-line play. Yeah, Watson had some questionable decisions himself, didn't want to throw the ball. And I'm going with the Commanders here, 24-18. And I think that Jaden Daniels, for really the first time, at least since that Tampa game, kind of struggles with a few things with Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith on the edges and Denzel Ward and Emerson in coverage. I think that this is the biggest challenge to this point for Jaden Daniels against the defense.
Yeah, and I've been going with a lot of dogs to start this week, and I'm going to continue to ride with the dogs. I like the Browns in this one. And like you mentioned, you expect the Washington Commanders offense to struggle. The Browns match up really well with the Commanders. They really do. They have a great run defense, right? And it's going to be a low-scoring game throughout. And I think I like the Browns' bad offense against the Washington Commanders' bad defense in this one. I think they can do enough to get the job done. And it'll be interesting to see, can the Commanders pull out a close game where they have some adversity and Jaden Daniels is going to have to throw the ball late, which I think this one's going to have to be one of those games. It'll be a big test for the young rookie. And, I like the Browns in this one. I think they do match up really well with the Commanders, and it'll be a good test for the Commanders against a really solid run defense, which they haven't necessarily played against the first few weeks of the season. All right, heading to Jacksonville. We going Colts versus Jags. I'll start with this one real quick. I'm going with the upset here. And I think Trevor Lawrence is a great matchup this week against the Colts. Anthony Richardson's practiced a little bit, not sure exactly if he's going to go or not. I think Joe Flacco actually might be a better option for them right now with the way Richardson's been playing. Jonathan Taylor's out in this one now. So they're relying on Trey Sermon with the carries. Jacksonville's not going to go over. They really can't, right? This is
No.
the game that I think they finally get a win. I think against a really bad Colts defense that struggled throughout this season. That offense finally scores over 24 points, which is crazy to say, but I think I finally have them winning a game this year, and it's going to be in spite of their struggles, but they're going to get it done this week.
I'm going to go with the same as you. I think I had originally had the Colts just because of how bad the Jags have been, but then Jonathan Taylor not playing. We're unsure on Anthony Richardson. Like you said, could be a bonus to them if Joe Flacco does play, depending on which Richardson would show up in the scenario where he starts. But I'm going with the Jaguars. They played their best game of the week or best game of the year last week. Trevor had his best performance to this point, and I agree with you. They're not just going to keep losing every single game. I do still think they'll end up being one of the bottom 3 teams in the league, but definitely bottom 5. But I'm going to roll with the Jags here in a fairly low-scoring game, 23-17.
Yep. Let's get to personally my favorite matchup of the week, Bills and Texans. This is going to be a great test for Houston. It really is. Who do you got in this one?
Yeah, it is going to be a great test, and I think that Buffalo is going to want to come out and send a message after last week. And, there's been a lot of Josh Allen and Buffalo Bills hate and pumping the brakes, which it's rightfully pumping the brakes. They had some flaws seriously exposed last Sunday night. Yeah. But now I see all the, clearly Lamar's better than Josh Allen. The Bills actually suck. And I don't think that's the case. I think a lot of things unraveled really quick. I think Josh Allen's going to remind people who he is this week. And even without Khalil Shakir, I've got the Bills 30-24 with both offenses moving the ball pretty well.
I like the Bills in this one. And the Bills got exposed in their front 7 against the run game against the Ravens. Luckily for them, it looks like Joe Mixon's going to be out in this one. And I think that's going to be the biggest X factor. The Texans are a different team when Joe Mixon's in the lineup. They could really run the ball, and then they could pass the ball off of that, right? Without Joe Mixon, Cam Akers has been bad. I think they're going to get Dameon Pierce back this week. We'll see if that helps at all. But without Mixon in the lineup, they've become one-dimensional on offense. And they had their struggles with the Jags last week. It wasn't pretty at all. And the week before, obviously, they got routed by the Minnesota Vikings. So without Mixon in the lineup, I think the Bills have a better matchup against the Texans. If Mixon was healthy, I honestly think I'm picking the Texans in this one because I think Mixon just gives them an added dimension, and then that's Buffalo's weakness. On the offensive side of the ball, the Bills' offense will get back on track this week, right? Their bread and butter is the ground game with James Cook. It really is at this point. And they got away from that early last week. I know they got down, but they got away from it way too early. We'll see what happens this week, but I think they get back on track. Buffalo's going to move on in this one. And I think the Joe Mixon getting healthy thing is going to be very important for Houston going into next week. All right. Division rivalry in the AFC West here. We got the Raiders traveling to Denver. The Devontae Adams saga is in full effect. He will probably never take another snap for the Raiders. Brady, who do you like in this one?
I like the Broncos. Their defense has been absolutely on fire this season. They've been top 5 pretty much across the board, every single metric. Pass EPA, rush EPA, yards per game, points per game, blitz percentage, pressure percentage. They've just been unreal. And I made a video and an article on this last week. Vance Joseph has been the key, but then on the field, the key has been Patrick Surtain. He has been locking up every receiver that he's gone up against. And I saw a video last night suggesting that if the Broncos defense keeps this up throughout the season, Surtain is going to get serious DPOY consideration with just being the head of that defense and being right now the number 1 corner in the league so far this season. I expect the defense to continue rolling against Gardner Minshew and the guys, especially without Devontae Adams. I think Brock Bowers has looked good so far this season, but it's not going to be enough. Broncos win at 17-13.
Yep, I like the Broncos in this one too. I think the Broncos defense is going to feast against a weak Raiders offense that's lacking any talent on that side of the ball right now. They got Brock Bowers, and it seems like defenses are really keying in on Brock Bowers. He hasn't been able to get going the last 2 weeks. And, this is going to be an ugly, low-scoring game. I don't know what the over-under is, but I'm betting the under regardless on this one. This is going to be an ugly one. I think Denver's defense is going to get after it. Like you mentioned, they're a great blitzing team right now, and it's working really well for them, and they got after the Jets last week. So I like the Broncos. All right, another division rivalry. We got the 49ers at home against the Cardinals. Brady, who do you like in this one?
I think the Niners are going to roll this week. This is really a make-or-break game for the Cardinals, a team that I had getting in that 7 spot in the NFC, and their offense looked really good to start the year. And then last week or two, it's kind of faded away. Kyler Murray looks frustrated. He hasn't looked good the last 2 weeks. He's not on the same page with his receivers. We have started to see Marvin Harrison kind of get into his role a little bit more. We've seen him score the last few weeks, but this is a really tough Niners team that I think played C+ football last week against the Patriots and still dominated them. They ran the ball super well. Brock Purdy wasn't extremely sharp, but you still saw good games from Jennings, Kittle, and Ayuk. And I think that the Niners are going to put up a lot of points in this game against that Cardinals defense. I'm going Niners 38-27.
Yeah, then the Cardinals don't match up well with the 49ers at all, right? Their running game for the 49ers is going to eat alive that poor Cardinals defense. And, it's going to take a Kyler Murray-led shootout for this to be a game. And I'm not sure I'm seeing that in this one with the way he's been playing the last 2 weeks. I got the Niners in this one, 31-17. I think the Cardinals, like you mentioned, things are starting to get ugly over there. And I'm not saying Jonathan Gannon's on the hot seat at all, right? I think he has one more year, but it could get a little interesting over there with another year in a healthy Kyler Murray that they struggle. So thing to watch out for. Nice little storyline. All right. This matchup would have been really special if we had a healthy Rams team, but we got the Packers at the Rams this week. Brady, who do you like in this one?
I like the Packers. Historically, they've played pretty well against the Los Angeles Rams, especially in the Stafford era. And this is a banged-up Rams team, as you mentioned. Packers aren't entirely healthy themselves, but I think Jordan Love is going to have another game under his belt now after last week. And we saw the offense start to click in that second half after a pretty abysmal first half. I think the Packers will put up some pretty good points here on LA, and I'm going with the Packers 32-23.
Yeah, I like the Packers in this one. I don't think Matt LaFleur is going to cook this Rams defense that's been really bad now for a few weeks. And we saw the Bears obviously have a bounce back week last week against the Rams defense. I think we see something similar here. And even when they did beat the 49ers, right, the 49ers still got theirs. Brock Purdy had a great day. So expect Jordan Love to have a big day in this one. I got the Packers winning 28-20. We'll see if Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay can put the team on their back and pull out a crazy win because, they need it. They really do. Things are going to start getting ugly in Los Angeles, right? Cooper Kupp's out till midseason. I think they get Cooper Kupp hopefully back next week. But if not, man, things are starting to look tough in Los Angeles. And, that playoff spot is really starting to slip away from them as each week goes on and they keep losing. So
and this was your NFC championship, wasn't it?
This was my NFC championship. It's not looking like it right now. That's for sure.
You never know.
We'll see if the Rams get healthy and hot. That is one thing to look out for. All right, we got the Giants at the Seahawks. Now, the Seahawks were impressive this week, in my opinion, on one side of the ball. What are you thinking, Brady?
I think, they were definitely offensively impressive, and the task defensively won't be nearly as hard for them as last week with Malik Neighbors out with a concussion. They won't be having to respect the same offensive prowess that they did against Detroit last week. And you saw a lot of things to build off of for Seattle's offense last week. Kenneth Walker is becoming one of the league's best backs. He's just absolutely dynamic and explosive every time he touches the football. You're starting to see JSN get that chemistry with Geno Smith here and get going. And then, Geno himself, he looks good. If they can balance the run and pass a little bit more, which their hand was a little bit forced being down, continually giving up scores last week. But Geno threw the ball, I think, 58 times on Monday Night Football last week. And if they can get that number, that run pass number more down to 60-40 and give Kenneth Walker more touches, I like them this week. I think they'll put up some good points, and I'm going Seattle 33-20.
Yeah, I like Seattle 27-24 in this one. The Malik Neighbors injury didn't change my score, but that impacts what I think of the Giants offense. Wan'Dale Robinson should be in for a big week for you fantasy football players. Make sure you are starting him if you have him. But outside of him, I'm not liking this offense at all. Dable's going to find a way to get him the ball. But besides that, it's not looking pretty for New York. And Seattle's getting healthier in that front seven. So it's not like Devin Singletary is going to be able to run all over them like the Lions were this past week. So it's a tough matchup for the Giants, but I like the Seahawks in this one. Like you mentioned, they have an elite offensive weapon group right now, and I think they really are going to get that ground game working this week. And, Dallas didn't really test New York on the ground much on Thursday Night Football. We'll see if Seattle changes it up a little bit and tests them this week. All right, 2 more games left here. We got the Cowboys traveling to Pittsburgh. And, some people are thinking Justin Fields is on track to win a big game here. Brady, what are you thinking?
I'm going with Dallas here. I think that this is a must-win game for Dallas on the road, and they've got questions. Micah Parsons is out. Trayvon Diggs is questionable. We may or may not see Deron Bland, but the thing is, this isn't a very good passing offense, and without Micah Parsons, that run game does open up a little bit more. But I do think the Cowboys will be up for the challenge, and most importantly, I think that Dak Prescott is going to have a big game. I think Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb are going to have a really big night on Sunday, and they're going to do just enough for the Cowboys to get this win. I do think the Steelers score a few times, but I'm going with Dallas 27-21. We saw a couple of vulnerabilities in that really good Steelers defense last week that I think the Cowboys will look to exploit further.
Yeah, and I don't think Joey Porter's good, don't get me wrong, but I don't think they have a guy that matches up with CeeDee Lamb at all. And Ferguson's been pretty good for them.
I like Ferguson too this week.
Ferguson's been pretty good for them. I like the Cowboys in this one too. Now, going off of this, I could 100% see the Steelers taking this one too. The Cowboys defense is going to be very bad this week, right? And I think this is more indicative of what we think of the Steelers offense, right? We don't necessarily think Najee is going to explode this week with a monster game because the Cowboys front seven's depleted. We don't think Justin Fields is going to have a big game because the Cowboys secondary is depleted. We think it's going to be we both have around the same score. I got 24-20. You have 27-21, right in that 20-point range for each team. And, the Cowboys are going to find a way to stay in it. And I like Dak and CD down the stretch in the fourth quarter when this game's close. I don't like Justin Fields and George Pickens trying to go win me a game in the fourth quarter necessarily. So I'm going to go Dallas in this one. And then heading on to Monday night, we got these Saints traveling to Arrowhead to take on the back-to-back defending champions. Brady, who do you like in this one?
There's a lot of talk. I know we've mentioned the possibility of it, but there's a lot of talk online, especially I feel like within the Chiefs fandom themselves, that this could be that trap game. This could be an upset with everything the Chiefs have been dealing with last couple of weeks, injury-wise, and getting off to a slow start offensively. But I don't think that I see it. I think I see Kansas City winning this ball game. The Saints are coming off of back-to-back really disappointing losses, and a third straight, honestly, is going to make things really tough for them as we start to enter this October stretch, and I think that's what's going to happen. I think that Mahomes is going to spread the ball out, obviously, without Rice, without Pacheco. I think we see Kelsey continue to get more involved. We saw that last week, and I think that the Chiefs win this one 26-20.
I got the Chiefs in this one as well. I think it's going to be a little bit lower scoring than what you have. I got 23-27 or 23-17. Sorry about that for the Chiefs. I think it's going to be ugly, I think, for the Chiefs offense once again this week. I don't think they're going to get things fixed on that unit necessarily until this bye week, where they're going to have some time to figure things out, what's working, what's not working. I'm interested to see. I don't think the Saints match up well against Xavier Worthy. I really don't. They have a bunch of long, lengthy defenders that don't necessarily run very well in that secondary. And it'll be interesting to see what the Chiefs have cooked up for Worthy this week. That could be a nice explosive play for them. But like you mentioned, Kelsey's going to have a great matchup. He's going to be matched up against the Honey Badger, Demario Davis, which should be a solid matchup for him. Going forward, a bunch of old heads going at it from 2018 Pro Bowls. And then on the Saints side of things, I think on the offense, they have a young offensive line right now. Ramchek's hurt. Eric McCoy just was hurt. He's out 6 to 8 weeks now. And I think
Trevor
the Chiefs
Penning sucks.
yeah, he's not good at all. But I think the Chiefs front seven finally gets going in that pass rush. They have a big game. And Derek Carr, the highest graded quarterback according to PFF through the first quarter of the season, which I can't get behind at all.
He's actually been pretty good, but I don't think
he hasn't been better than Allen or Darnold. That's for
sure. I'll put him in the top 10 so far, but no.
Yeah, but he's not top. He ain't the top dog so far.
He ain't even been the best in his division, honestly.
No, I like the Chiefs in this one. I think just because of the reasons I stated, and it'll be interesting to see what news we get with Rashee Rice, obviously, next week. It's just a crazy rumor mill with him at this point going forward.
I think the Chiefs are kind of trying to make the media, I think the Chiefs are kind of enjoying it. It would be very typical of Andy Reid to have them scrambling and trying to be the first to report this and that and doing their speculation. I think the Chiefs they definitely know what it is. And I think they know the prognosis and are just kind of watching the media scramble.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to find out. And hey, who knows? We might get Devontae Adams news before the end of the week. We'll keep you guys updated.
his cryptic story today.
What was it?
And so it was a picture of Edgar Allan Poe, and people were trying to put the pieces together. Edgar Allan Poe's most famous poem is called The Raven, and he resided in Baltimore and was the inspiration for the name of the Baltimore Ravens. So some people are saying, oh, maybe it's the Ravens. Some people are saying, oh, Edgar Allan Poe, maybe it's the Bills. And it's funny to see because 99% of the time when you get these cryptic posts, they end up resulting to nothing. So
I've seen my fair share of Chris Jones cryptic posts in my life, and it all turned out to work.
yeah, I love the best ones are the tweets with like the eye emojis and the hourglass emojis, or like the money emoji. The players are, I mean, social media has definitely made it interesting.
But yeah, hey, let us know what your favorite pick is this week. We'll catch you guys next time on the Blitz Angle.
We'll see y'all.